All right, let's jump right in. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking highly clinical, step-by-step methodology for rescuing massive, large-scale enterprise programs. Listen, if you've ever watched a major initiative just slowly slip behind schedule, or maybe you've seen a steering committee start sweating over a spreadsheet, this is absolutely for you. We're going to look at exactly how to turn a failing program around before the board completely loses confidence, using some incredibly structured, field-tested strategies. We're starting off with a pretty staggering statistic. According to PMI's 2024 Pulse of the Profession, average project performance sits right at 73.8%. So what does that actually mean in the real world? It means roughly 1 in 4 programs is underperforming at any given time. Think about that. That is a massive amount of enterprise capital and human effort just sitting in the danger zone. But the crucial takeaway we're exploring today is that most of these programs aren't unrecoverable. They're simply ungoverned.
So, to get these projects back on track, here's our roadmap. We'll look at when programs go red, introduce Arunava Chakravarty's recovery playbook, unpack the 3 key levers, structural governance, delivery innovation, and applied AI, and then wrap up with a 5-step recovery sequence.
Part 1. When programs go red. Let's start with the diagnosis because it is so vital to understand that programs rarely fail overnight in some dramatic explosion. No, it's usually a slow, quiet drift into the red. A failing program usually looks exactly like this. You've got to watch out for these symptoms. You might see baseline drift, where the schedule on paper literally no longer matches reality. Or how about escalation lag? This is when problems take weeks to finally reach the decision-makers who can actually do something about them. Then there's change request leakage, where informal scope changes quietly eat away at your margins. And man, I see this next one all the time. Action rot. That's the exact same risks sitting on your log, meeting after meeting, completely unresolved. Eventually, all of this leads to a total erosion of trust from the steering committee. When they start demanding hard evidence instead of just taking your word for it, you are heading for a crisis. And honestly, just working harder isn't going to fix this. You have to fundamentally change the process.
Moving to Part 2, Arunava Chakravarty's recovery playbook. To actually cure these deeply ingrained symptoms, we're turning to a very specific expert prescription.
This playbook comes straight from Arunava Chakravarty. He's an independent strategic advisor with over 3 decades of experience recovering massive red status programs across defense, government, telecom, and managed IT services. The guy has transformed failing managed services into high-performing accounts time and time again, and his core premise, built from 30 years in the trenches, is incredibly simple. There is no magic silver bullet. True program recovery requires a very specific triad. You need structural governance, delivery innovation, and applied AI.
All right, Part 3. Lever 1. Structural governance. The very first lever in this playbook is structural governance, which is really all about rebuilding the operating rhythm with strict discipline.
The crucial shift here is how information actually flows. You have got to move away from those subjective, narrative-based status reports. I mean, a program manager just asking tougher questions on a weekly sync call, that doesn't fix baseline drift. Instead, you have to provide the board with a decision-ready pack. This isn't just a bloated status report, it's a completely different tool. It includes rebaseline variance, risks that have actually breached their thresholds, and hard, objective project health analytics. It's about moving from storytelling to hard evidence.
To put that into perspective, look at this wild result from a massive government infrastructure program. Just by implementing this kind of structural governance, literally just rebuilding the escalation pathways and standardizing the reporting, Chakravarty dropped schedule overruns from a staggering 60% down to under 15%. At the exact same time, budget overruns plummeted from 40% to under 10%. And here's the crazy part. He did this without changing the underlying scope or swapping out the delivery team. The secret weapon wasn't adding more people, it was pure, unadulterated structure. Part 4. Lever 2. Delivery innovation. Once your patient is stabilized by that new governance structure, we pull the second lever. This is where we bring deliberate innovation into how the delivery model itself operates. Now, this is not about going out and buying expensive new software. It's about redesigning where the risk actually lives in your process. Take change control redesign. By taking informal, unbilled scope changes and locking them into a strict process, they turned commercial leakage into 22% year-over-year account growth. That wasn't from winning new clients. That was just capturing the value of the work they were already doing. Or take multi-vendor coordination. By creating a single point of commercial accountability across multiple vendors on a 14-state telecom rollout, they hit 0 penalty triggers. Innovation here simply means rethinking how the work is planned and managed commercially.
But wait, there is a vital sub-step here that you absolutely cannot skip: capability building. This dictates whether your fix is actually going to stick. You have to mentor your delivery managers so they can run this new process completely independently. Because if you don't build that self-sufficiency, every single minor decision will route upward, creating a massive bottleneck. And the second the recovery team packs up and leaves, that action rot we talked about earlier will be back within a quarter. The new process has got to outlast the people who built it.
Part 5, Lever 3, Applied AI. Okay, so governance has stabilized the project, innovation has redesigned the model, and now we introduce the third lever. Applied AI is all about compressing the distance between a signal and a decision.
So in a recovering program, where does AI actually act as a force multiplier? Just think about the sheer volume of noise your team deals with. A huge chunk of their capacity gets eaten up chasing status updates and closing duplicate tickets. AI steps in and frees up incredible delivery capacity by handling all that high-volume noise. It consolidates tickets, clustering related issues automatically. It can auto-close tickets for known fixes. It even offers predictive remediation, like flagging a budget burn pattern before a threshold is breached, and handles auto-escalation so the right boss is alerted instantly. Okay, listen closely, because this is probably the most critical warning of this entire explainer. AI without structural governance just produces confident noise, only much faster. Seriously, if you try to slap AI over inconsistent, messy logs, the models will cluster the wrong tickets and predict the completely wrong breaches. Sequence is everything here. The data has to be cleaned by level 1, structural governance, before level 3 can ever hope to work. Governance gives you the clean signal. AI just gets that signal to the decision maker faster. Reverse that order and you're basically destined to fail.
Now, when you get this right, this triad builds into something truly cutting edge: sentiment divergence. AI-driven sentiment analysis can actually read through stakeholder communications and figure out if a client is unhappy way before you ever get to a formal steering committee meeting. If your technical milestones are all showing up green, but the client's emails show they're super frustrated, that divergence from the official story is a governance signal in itself. That should trigger an auto-escalation just as fast as a massive budget breach. Escalation lag isn't always about hard numbers. Sometimes it's the delay in admitting the client has just lost faith.
Finally, Part 6, the 5-step recovery sequence. So how do we pull this all together and institutionalize this triad of governance, innovation, and AI into a repeatable protocol?
To actually make this stick, Chakravarty prescribes a very strict 5-step sequence. Step 1, diagnose the true baseline, actual schedule, actual spend, and do it without blame. Step 2, stabilize the governance cadence by standardizing your logs and escalation triggers. Step 3, redesign the operating model to eliminate where the risk lives and build the team's capability to run it. Step 4, layer in AI-assisted evidence, but only, and I mean only, when the data from Step 2 is completely trustworthy. And finally, Step 5, institutionalize these wins through a center of excellence. That way, this disciplined approach becomes your organization's new default, not just some one-off rescue mission.
At the end of the day, a failing program doesn't need a more optimistic manager. What it needs is the structure and the cold, hard evidence to aggressively correct its course. Governance restores trust, innovation removes the structural cause of the drift, and applied AI keeps the gap from ever reopening. So as we wrap up this explainer, I'll leave you with a provocative question to ponder for your own projects. Does your board currently rely on hope to get back to green, or do they actually have the hard, AI-assisted evidence required to act?